Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show.
All right. I want to thank Miss Clara B. Lee from the Philippines. I've gone international, y'all. She leaves a great review here for me. She says so many valuable health tips that you can learn from. It is a must listen. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate every single review that comes my way. It tells me that I'm giving you the information that you're looking for, the information that you're yearning for. I know that when I was in my, perimenopausal journey, I just was like, where can I turn to? What information can I find? And I'm grateful that I am giving that to you. These reviews mean the world to me. They light me up that I'm able to help you in any way possible. So if you are listening to this, do me a favor, head over to iTunes and leave me a review. If you're like, girl, I don't know how to do that, reach out to me. I will help you get that done. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the show. Hey, Magic Makers, welcome back to today's episode. So today I want to talk about someone that you might recognize, right? She might be your neighbor, she might be a coworker, she might be your sister, she might be you, best friend from college. And, if you've been hanging out with me for a while, the last few episodes, I've been talking about women who consistently show up in my community. First, I had burnt out Brenda. She's been running on empty for so long, she forgot to even know what full feels like. I've had two serious Tammy, where basically her life became Home Depot. Everything was a project. And if either of those felt close to home, or didn't feel close to home, go back and listen to that. I put the link in the show notes. And today, stay tuned because in our next episode, I'm going to be talking about Itchy Feet Iris, and she is a whole situation. But today, I'm talking about finding your people, Faye. And this one might be the sneakiest persona of them all because Faye, she doesn't look lonely, right? She's got a spouse, a partner, a love connection. She's got kids. She's got neighbors, coworkers. She's she waves to you at the gym. She got 800 and something Facebook friends. She's got 3 group chat going. She's got an Instagram full of people that she keeps up with. And from the outside, homegirl looks fine. But if you really asked her, when was the last time she had a conversation that wasn't about logistics or wasn't a DM or comment on a post or a string of memes in a group chat, like an actual deep conversation where it was like a back and forth conversation, right? When was the last time she laughed so hard her stomach hurt? And if something was really exciting happening in her life, who would she call? Or would she hesitate and think, ooh, would that person even care what's happening in my life? And that's where things get quiet for Faye. Like Faye's not missing people. She's got plenty of people. She's missing real connection, right? The kind where someone actually cares about your real life, not what's on your Instagram grid. And a lot of women don't even realize like that's something that they're missing, right? They don't realize that it's gone until it just stops. And it doesn't really happen overnight. There's no like, hey, this is happening signal, right? And this is why it really matters. 1 in 3 adults over 45 are lonely. And 1 in 3, that's 1 in 3, right? And the loneliness is worse for your health than obesity. Not as bad, worse than obesity. And women are more isolated and lonely And 50% of them don't age well if this is where we're starting right now at 45. And if I want to get more specific, 37% of women between 50 and 64 are lonely. And it's not random, right? In that age group between 50 and 64, think about how many big life changes happen, right? Empty nest hits. Your parents start needing you more. And I know from friends who are caregivers, it's very lonely because they're not reaching out for you because their spare time, they're over doing stuff for their parents. And when they're not doing stuff for their parents, they're just grateful to just be sitting the hell down. Hey, Magic Makers, before we hop into today's episode, I'm ridiculously excited about something that I'm running. It's called Feed Up Summer. And it was born out of a realization that I had years ago. For the longest time, and probably just like you thought, if I only had more discipline, a better plan, a stricter routine, right? If I could only just get my shit together, then everything would finally click, right? And I get it. Summer happens and then, vacations, work deadlines, family stuff, all the things pop up. And when you finally realize that the problem wasn't discipline, you start thinking about what can I do differently? So I got it for you. Feed Up Summer. It's a free 26-day experiment for women over 40 who are tired of trying to get it right. She's trying to be perfect, tired of starting over again on Monday. And so you are going to get 26 experiments. You take what you need, you leave the rest, and they're designed to help you to stop making health feel so damn complicated. So do me a favor. We kick off on June 19th. But if you're hearing this after, it's okay. You can still hop in because guess what? There's no track. You decide what experiment you take and you decide what experiment you leave. So hop over to the link in my show notes and have a peek. I hope to see you on the inside. Also in this age, you move. From your big house to the smaller house. Maybe you change states like I did. You retire. Your whole social structure starts to shift. And everything you built your social life around, gone, right? We can buy every supplement on the planet. We can track our protein, count our steps, listen to podcasts about sleep. But never once do we ask ourselves, who the hell are we spending our time with? Right? Now, before you think this episode is going to turn you into a social butterfly or be all doom and gloom, I just want to let you know that I am still that girl who I love my pajamas. You know that. And I want to be in my pajamas at 8:00. And I'm not saying that we all need to go start living like we're 25 and we got a packed social calendar. And if that is you, rock on with your bad self. I know those people who are like, their social battery is on high. Mine drains pretty quickly, about as quickly as like your iPhone does. All right. The goal here that I'm talking about isn't to become more social. It's how do you become more connected? And those are two very different things because you can be around people all day and still feel lonely. And you can have a very small circle and feel deeply connected. And actually, I found Faye in the wild. Last week, my husband and I were at a restaurant and she was sitting quietly next to me and her husband was doing all the talking, which same, my husband is a yapper. And I'm a little bit of a heckler, just in case you didn't notice. Sarcasm is my love language. And about like halfway through, our husbands having their conversation, I realized I was looking at myself, right? Same energy. Her husband does the social heavy lifting. And I'm perfectly happy to contribute to this conversation. But, if I'm in the mood, I'll start it. And if I'm not in the mood, I won't start it. And then, I noticed she ordered a glass of wine. And if I do order white wine or rosé, I will always order a side of rocks. And if they don't put a spoon in the side of rocks, I'm like, I am not an animal. Why do I have to use my hands to scoop my ice out and put it into my glass? You know why I'm ordering the side of rocks. You're the bartender. You're not new. Anyway, instant BFF, right? Do we exchange numbers in that moment? No. Do we make plans to do anything? No. But our husbands exchanged telephone numbers and she followed me on Instagram later that night. And I'm counting that as a win because that's how Faye makes friends, right? Through the side door. And here's what's interesting, right? When we were younger, We made friends without even trying, right? We had coworkers that you talked to at coffee, when you were getting coffee or making copies or whatever, school pickup, school drop off, practices, neighborhood events. You're forced to have conversations with strangers. And then some more little accidental run-ins. At 22, you're in the bathroom and you're both like trash and you become ride or die BFFs, right? So then life shifts, especially in that age I talked about, that 50 to 64. Our kids leave the nest. You move, you retire. Maybe you start working from home more and you stopped showing up in the same places you just needed to be at week in and week out. And those built-in opportunities to make friends, connect with people just disappeared quietly. And, it was like a slow leak until you noticed, dang, I got a flat tire. And then one day you realize a lot of people, but you actually, I'm going to go air quote, you know a lot of people, but do you know a lot of people? And this hit for me differently moving to Florida, right? I've lived in the Boston area for over 30 years. And, I had my people. I had my history. I had the people who I know to call. I had that standing monthly lunch with a group of friends. And I don't have that anymore, right? I moved suddenly and I'm like, oh, no one warned me that it's not only adjusting to my life routine and, where the hell do we put the plates kind of thing. But it's I thought that would be my biggest adjustment, finding my new gym, figuring out my routine, finding my new spots, learning the grocery store. Don't even get me started on that. But what I figured out really quickly is that the life, building a life somewhere new is anything. It's more than that, right? It's finding new people. And it's putting yourself, actively putting yourself in places where you can find people and people can find you. And that's where it gets a little weird, right? Because the last thing sometimes you want to do is go to a networking event. I don't even know how many years working the room for business, and doing this for friendship feels like I'm trolling, right? And it feels desperate. But what does it actually look like, right? For me, it's finding spots that I actually enjoy, right? I like to walk near the water, and it's showing up at the same place at the same time so people start recognizing your face. And it's less about strategy and more about just being somewhere repeatedly and seeing what grows. At least here in Florida, which is kind of interesting, being from New England, being from the Boston area, when people just randomly talk to you, you're kind of like, what's up? What do you want? Why are you talking to me? Why are you staring at me? And it's interesting how people actively introduce themselves here. And, I'm less than 60 days here. So who knows? In maybe 6 months, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I just turned into a Floridian. I just introduced myself to somebody or, made a comment about something. And I'm out in the wild. Who knows? But, making friends as an adult is weird, right? There's no other word for it. You're basically, it's like dating. And I sucked at dating. I fell ass backwards into my husband. But it's it's like dating without the fun parts, right? You're figuring each other out. If you have enough stuff in common, do you want to hang out? Are you going to annoy me in 3 minutes? No one knows the rules because there are no rules, right? And it's awkward as hell. And so some of us stop trying, right? Which is exactly why so many women feel alone and why even if you're completely surrounded with people. So here's the other thing we're saying, that the version of you at 55 isn't going to be the same version of you at 35, right? We've changed. What we want from life has changed. What we find funny has changed. Well, I haven't really matured since the 8th grade, but for other people, right? Things we tolerate. I know my tolerance has definitely gone down. The conversations that I want to have, I'm done with those surface level conversations, right? Just sometimes we just are just around people that we haven't kept up with, not because things went wrong, just because we've all grown in different directions, different actions. For me, I am child free and I have now friends who are dealing with adult children and, them kind of finding their way as a 20 something person. I don't understand that. but they don't understand what it's like to be child free and I don't even have a pet. Like I can come and go as I please. So it's like we're in different spaces of life, and that's okay. And sometimes you just find yourself surrounded with people who knew you back in the day, but they don't know who you are now. And so you don't need people who knew you 20 years ago. And it's great if you can find those people who knew you 20 years ago and your friendship has been able to evolve. That's absolutely fabulous. And don't get me wrong, I have plenty of those people, but I don't live in Boston anymore. I live, 1,500, I don't know, is it 1,500 miles? If it's wrong, someone's going to correct me. Right? So it's like, as you are like evolving into this, and if you find yourself being this this Faye personality type, right? You're like, I'm asking for you to do one small thing. That's it, right? Go somewhere, become a regular, take the class you've been thinking about for 60 minutes, join the thing, text a friend that you've been meaning to text, hell, like even go on your social media and the first person that pops up, text them and say, hey, let's grab coffee, or hey, let's have an actual physical phone call versus a text exchange, right? And it's not because you're trying to find, it's not because you're trying to find your next BFF, right? This is dating. You don't meet, it's rare that you meet someone and you're like, oh my God, we're getting married. Like, you don't have to be this person's new BFF. It's just like, you're just looking for connection, right? Because connection starts with proximity. And most friendships don't begin with, hey, want to be BFFs? They begin with, hey, good to see you again. That's it, right? Show up enough times that people know your face, that you can wave at them, that smile at them. Like I know that, so I worked at a gym for the majority of my career. And when I was leaving the gym, one of the people, like multiple people said to me that was very surprising, was that I loved the fact that when you didn't see me for a while, I would say, hey, Caroline, I haven't seen you in a while. What's been going on? Or, hey, Steve, what's up? Where you been hiding? That the fact that I noticed that they weren't there, and become that person, right? Because especially for me as the instructor, right? In any, I taught 3 classes on a Monday. So in 3 classes, I could see somewhere between 30 to 50 people in a night. And the fact that someone picked up on you, right? That means a lot. So maybe you're that person who notices the person who my husband and I sit at the bar. Maybe you notice the person who sits at the bar and you're like, oh, hey, you were here the last couple of times. Introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Sharon. All right. Because, it's just showing up, right? Showing up so that you start to notice people and people start to notice you, because the healthiest thing you do this week might not be your workout. Don't get me wrong. I still like workouts. And it might not be getting your steps or getting your protein. It might just be texting the human being that you see on your Instagram. It might be talking to the human being that's sitting to your right or sitting to your left. And even if you go to a fitness class, right? And I'm so guilty of this. I'm a gym rat, and there have been plenty of times that there's this woman, Melissa, I've known her for 20 years. Like she forced me to be her friend at the gym. When I first started going to the gym, I was all business. I was competing. So it was like, I had to get in, I had to get my 2-hour workout in before I went to work. And then I had to come back and do my cardio. And she forced me to be her friend. And she's still my friend after all these years. So, and it's because she saw me at the gym all the time. I was one of the few women in the gym who were at the time, they had the weight room, and then they had the dumbbell and free weight section. And then they had the machine section. And I was one of the few women that went over to the machine section, the free weight section with the dumbbells. And so she forced me to be her friend. So do that, right? So it's it's not trying to be the healthiest person in the room, right? We're trying to build a life that actually feels good. And the people part is the non-negotiable, right? And we're trying to connect. And so before I let you go, we've talked about the Brenda, we've talked about Tammy, now we're talking about Faye. And I want to know which one you identify with most. And you could be that unicorn. I feel like everything we've talked about, I've been that person. I've had that season of life. And because most of us are, like I said, a little bit of all of it. Usually one hits you differently depending on where you are in that moment. So I made a quiz. It's in the show notes. And give it a shot. It might put a name to something that you've been feeling for a while. And your quick action this week is that I would love for you to just take that one step. It could be texting that friend. It could be joining the pickleball league. It could be signing up for that art class, whatever it is. Take that action. Do me a favor. DM me and let me know how you made out. All right, Magic Makers, thank you so much for the time today. And I will talk to you next week, and enjoy your day and get out there and enjoy your life.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.